Good morning. The format of this video will be completely different from my regular format where I just sit and talk. I'm trying a new different format, so bear with me. In today's video, I want to basically talk about how to future-proof yourself as a developer. In the current age of AI, what simply started as fun bots, right? Fun chatbots like ChatGPT and others for people to play with, they've evolved to things that are slightly, I wouldn't say slightly more complicated, things that are way more complicated. Dev in AI and all the other things. And I know Dev in AI has been debunked, and all that stuff, but still, there's still some fear about job security. In the coming ages where AI will replace some jobs, how do I future-proof myself as a developer? And I've thought about it extensively, and in this video, I'll essentially be, giving you some tips on how to future-proof yourself as a developer, right? Things that I found have worked for me as I've interviewed for different roles in my career thus far, and things that I've heard from other engineers as well. People who have mentored me or books that I've read. I'll essentially be sharing those tips. Some things you can start doing in the short term and other things it takes time to implement, as you move forward in your career. You may not have opportunities to implement some of them, but in the future, you will know what to look out for. This is highly unscripted. By now, I'm sure you can tell, right? Essentially talking to you one-on-one as opposed to reading something out to you. So yeah, let's get into it. The first tip that I'll give in order to future-proof your developers, future-proof yourself as a developer is to go one step further in understanding how things work behind the hood, right? So as developers, when we first learn how to code, we learn the basics, then we gradually advance to more complicated topics. Say you're learning web development. You start by learning HTML, then you learn CSS, then after that you do some JavaScript. Then from there, you advance to more complicated JavaScript frameworks like React, Vue.js, and all the other ones. Then from there, you then start building, applications and using state management. You essentially go one layer above each time, right? Basics, then intermediate, then advanced. We get to a point where we're comfortable using whatever framework or language that we're using for our work. But in order to future-proof yourself, we need to go one step further in understanding how things work behind the hood. React, for example, right? Say you're a React developer. Instead of just saying, oh, I'm a React developer, I know how to do stuff in React, right? I know how to build web applications in React. I know how to do state management in React. How about you try to understand how React itself works under the hood? React uses this thing called the DOM. What is the DOM? How does the DOM update the state of the application? React 19 will be compiled. What does that mean for React to be compiled? A developer who knows how to use React is different from one who understands how React works under the hood. If you're using cloud services like AWS, Azure, or say an app service on Azure, how does that work under the hood? The app services are running on Linux virtual machines. What does that process look like? If you're using databases and you create a database index and your query runs faster because of that database index you've created, why does it run faster? Going one step further in understanding why things work the way they are underneath the hood, I think that is key to future-proofing yourself as a developer, because at a certain point in time, everybody knows the exact same thing. Sometimes in an interview, when it comes down to it, what you know about a framework is exactly the same as what another person knows about that framework. What separates you from them is knowing more, understanding the abstracted layer, right? There are APIs that are exposed for us to use. How about we go understand what's happening underneath the hood? Having more curiosity about the languages or whatever you're working on than the average developer. That's what will set you apart and what will future-proof you as a developer. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions about how to do that, just let me know down in the comments below. How do I... To be honest, I'm thinking about how to transition to the next part of the video, but I'm having a hard time. It's Saturday, 9 a.m., play basketball on the weekend. So yeah, let's go out and do that. I don't know if you see me playing. I don't know if I can shoot all that stuff, but we'll see. I'll try my best. Let's go. How you doing, man? Long time no see. I'm good, man. Fine. How you been? Good. Jermaine. Cole. How you been at, dude? I don't know. Where you been at? Good to see you. Yeah. I've been running, man.
We've been needing big dudes for the league, man.
Yes, sir. I just came back from basketball and it was fun. It's been the first time I've played in a while since training for the half marathon, but I think I held up my own, you know. I made a few good buckets, you know. It's one of those things where once you have it, it really never goes away, you know. Once a baller, always a baller. However, I did make some, let's just say, not so good plays.
He needs some milk.
I think it was fun. Overall, it was pretty good. Looking forward to going back for more runs and more leagues, summer leagues as well. So, all right, let's talk about the second way you can future-proof yourself as a developer for years and years, even with the revolution of AI and all of that, right? I gave the first tip, which was going beyond the surface layer and going into like the abstracted layer to understand how things work. The second tip is continuous learning, right? Again, it ties into the first one, but seek out opportunities to work on things outside what you do in your regular job. Your regular job is literally this, but programming is so much wider. There's so much more stuff that you can do. There's so much more, right? Seek out opportunities to solve problems using code. That's the way you can future-proof yourself, because with that, you're exposing yourself to different domains. It could be with personal projects. It could be with contributing to open source repos. It could be with reading books, whichever ways, right? Essentially, you need to be constantly learning. I don't mean pick up the newest framework that just came out and, what I mean is use code and services to solve problems that you're facing in your actual life, right? In your real life. That's the best way to manage interest and longevity, right? If it'll serve you, then you're more likely to see it through as opposed to picking up this random project because you find it interesting. That's fine as well, right? But try finding ways to solve problems. Like, I keep using this example a lot, but the Spotify to Apple Music project that I worked on, it took me some time for my part. I worked on it with a friend, but it took me some time for my part, and I learned a lot from that project. It's a project where I had to solve multiple problems and basically just open my eyes to the world of APIs at the time and seeing how Spotify and Apple Music designed their stuff, right? Again, continuous learning. Prior to that, all I did was network automation, right? Completely different field. Using APIs in music and seeing how that data is being stored. Completely different, right? That's the type of opportunities that you should seek out. The projects that you work on could also take a day, or it could take weeks, right? It could be an ongoing project. The Optil app, which is a mobile app that I built, it's currently on the App Store, but I literally only make revisions to it every couple of years, right? I'm planning to do one this year. With that project, each time I go back to it and I work on it, I essentially refresh my knowledge on mobile app development, because that's not something I do constantly, but it's something that I'm interested in, right? And so it's literally an ongoing project that may, there may come a time in the future when I'm like, I don't want to do it again, but it's something that has been going on for years, right? You could find examples of that for you to do in your life. Again, it could be something small that you do one day, or it could be something that you continually work on over time. I still have a few more tips. We need to go grocery shopping, so let's go. I'll tell you the next tip in the car. Literally started raining out of nowhere, but that's Seattle for you, right? Impromptu rain. The next tip that I'll give, don't stay in one place for too long, right? Don't stay in one job for too long. As developers, we're working with a language, with a framework. Whatever we're working on with that language is limited to the use case of the company that we're working for, right? So if you're doing React, I know I keep using React, let's use another language. If you're using C# to build APIs, right? Backend API services. If you stay in that place for too long where you're only using, C# to build APIs, then that's all you know. Your skills are limited to only creating APIs for the backend and not anything. But then there's so many more ways you could use C# for, as an example, to build other services, right? The only way you will learn how to do those things is if you step out of the current role that you're in, right? Another analogy I like to use to explain this is think of the languages and the stack and whatever you're using as tools, right? Now, it's a tool used to create value, right? Like a hammer and nails used to create a chair. If you stay in one place for a long time where you get used to using hammers and nails to only create chairs, then it doesn't matter what type of chair you create, right? You could create lawn chairs, you could create dining chairs, you could create concert chairs, you could create all different types of chairs, but at the end of the day, your knowledge is still limited to only creating chairs, right? But remember, hammer and nails can be used to create so many things, right? Different type of furniture, right? Tables, beds, whatever you can think of. But if you stay in a place where you're using your hammer and your nails, the programming languages, the stacks, the framework, to only create one thing, then you essentially get locked only knowing how to do that thing, which is not sustainable. A follow-up question that I know I had, and a lot of people will have, is when do you decide to move, right? At what point should you decide to move? I would say when you've learned everything in that domain and there's nothing more for you to learn, then you move, right? When there aren't interesting problems to solve in that space anymore using that language or that framework, then that's when you move. Another advantage of moving is you typically get paid more, right? If you stay in one place for a very long time, the rate at which your salary increases is way less than if you would have moved to a new company. Typically, after you get one promotion, right, within that role, then it typically means at that time you've, potentially grasped or done everything that you can in that space. When you've used a hammer and a nail to build almost all the type of chairs you can think of, it's time to move on to another place where you can use the hammer and the nails, the programming languages, to build tables, to build beds, to build, all sorts of things. And that's essentially my advice. Man, Ice Prince was so good. I listened to some of his old stuff and it puts me back in that place when he released Eli, Fire of Zamani, all that good stuff. Or maybe his new stuff is not as interesting to me, right? He puts out singles now. After the Just to the World album, I'm from Just. I was thinking the album will do something for us, put Just to the world. But the album wasn't about Just at all. They vexed me. Just to the World album, nothing about Just. Hello. Good, how are you? Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Can I get you any sauce or anything?
Nah, is there some sauce in the chicken?
All the chickens, yeah, sure.
Yeah, as long as there is, it's fine. Make a drink and shy, yo. I know I'm not the only one that has it. I have this bad habit where anytime I go grocery shopping, I'm not cooking the groceries that day. The groceries have to rest. They need time to settle down. You just can't buy groceries and cook them the same day. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Like, why? It doesn't, treat yourself. Go out. All the walking up and down you did for the grocery, you need to reward yourself. Get a little nice something on the side. Nah, I think it's just me. I have big back behavior sometimes. So, if I edited this properly, then you would have had a chance to listen to my car live music sessions, which I personally enjoy. I don't know if you enjoy them, but they're the highlight of my drives. Another way of future-proofing yourself as a developer is by being selective with the type of work you do. And I'm not talking about, jobs within, whether being a front-end developer or back-end developer. No, I'm talking even within those roles, being specific about the type of projects you work on within your team, right? So there's a difference between impactful work, right? Work that has impact, and busy work. Give an example. Rewriting a whole code base so that it's cleaner, adding unit tests and stuff like that. It's impactful work, but it's more busy work, because if the code base was working perfectly fine before you rewrote it, then you rewriting it didn't add as much value compared to the time that you put into it, right? So, doing that versus working on a feature to enhance user experience, or working on a feature to, add something that wasn't in the application, right? Same thing with back-end work. Try to work on projects within your current job that looks impactful on the resume. Sometimes it's out of your control. Your manager or your dev lead or whoever just hands you to say, okay, you go do this or you go do that. That's fine. But as time goes on and as you gradually advance, as you learn more, try to be very selective, right? Stuff that when you're speaking to someone about it, you can clearly quantify the amount and the impact of work you've done, right? This leads to the second point underneath, doing impactful work. Learn how to communicate the value of the work you've done in the past. I think that's something we developers struggle with. We just say, oh, I wrote code that did this. I wrote code that did this. I wrote code that did that, right? Or I implemented this feature that did this. However, what was the value add from you doing that thing? I enhanced user experience for a checkout process, right? Say someone wants to buy something, their whole user experience when they're checking out. I enhance that by X amount, leading to more sales. That's the value add. Keyword, value add. I did this and this thing led to X, Y, and Z. Again, it draws back to what I said about busy work versus impactful work, right? For example, rewriting a code base. I keep using that example. It's important, but it's not as good on the resume unless if rewriting the code base dramatically increased the way you ship code faster, right? That's a value add, right? So even if you did that, right, writing it in a way that shows value, communicating it in a way that shows value to potential employers, that's what is important and what will future-proof you as a developer, because ultimately you want to show the value that you provide as a developer. That's just it, right? Selecting impactful work. That way, when you're out looking for your next role, all right, you're communicating in a way that provides value to the company, because that's all they care about, right? They don't care whether you know Java, they don't care whether you know C#, they don't care, no. It's how have you used C# to create value for the company that you're working for? How have you used Python? How have you used React, right? So try to hone in on projects that show impact, less busy work. All right, last but not least, networking. Networking is a surefire way to future-proof yourself as a developer. I know the stereotype around developers is very introverted, don't like to talk to people, don't like to meet with people, but at the end of the day, the whole aim of us future-proofing ourselves as developers is so we can get a job in the future, right? So we can still be employable when the AI robots take over. And with that, only a person is going to hire a person, meaning you need to have connections, right? Your network is your net worth. Your network is your net worth. I'll say it again. Your network is your net worth. Get a mentor, right? Someone who knows more than you in your field. If it's in your company, get someone ideally in a different org. Someone taught me that. Shout out to Megna. Thanks, Megs. Someone who has gone through the ropes to help you and guide you through all of this. Essentially, any questions you have, right, navigating your career. They also know people. So if you're at a point where you need a job, maybe you got laid off or you're just looking for new opportunities, they can help guide you through to talk to the right person. Go to conferences. I'm going to my first developer conference in May. So in a few months, I'm going to the Google Developer Conference. But prior to that, I hadn't been to anyone in person. All I had done was just done virtual conferences. Actually, you meet new developers, people working in other companies, you make network, right? Connect with people on LinkedIn. Again, if you see someone who's interested, have an interesting background, message them. It's a hit or a miss sometimes, but try to grow your network of other developers, because as I said in the beginning, if something happens, you're in a bad situation where you don't have a job anymore, people are the one that will help you, right? People pull people up. So try to make sure your network of other developers, mentors, engineers, people in other companies is strong, because that's how you future-proof yourself. Because in the future, those people will know people, they'll have opportunities that you can tap into. That's it for this one. I know a very different format from my usual video where I just sit in the studio and just talk, but I don't know, it was fun. It was fun not to read from a script and just go off the top of my mind. I think I rambled a lot. It may not come across as rambling because I'll do some video edit magic, so you may not see it, but I really enjoyed this one. I think it's a staple that we'll continue to do more of. Throw in videos like this into the mix for you guys to get to see a different side of me. Apparently, that's what we're supposed to do as creators. If you have any questions about anything I've mentioned, or if you have tips, other tips, for people to future-proof themselves as developers, put it down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.